there's a lot to like about this Kansas team. The unfortunate thing right now, we've been talking about it with these other teams, is that they're doing renovations to their stadium, which, by the way, good for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good for them.
This
Good
is a
for them.
good this is a good thing, real quick. This is a really good thing in terms of the direction of the program. Now, if you're talking about opportunity to strike in the Big 12 with the talent you have on the roster, with the way that the dynamics of the Big 12 are right now, especially with the potential that Florida State and Clemson coming to your program and coming to your conference, I mean, damn, man, wouldn't it be nice to be playing, your home games once you finally just started to bring back your student and your stadium atmosphere to Kansas Jayhawk football from a year ago and that success you had last year. But like you said, this is a good thing. This is a good thing for the long-term success of the program of Kansas.
So some change in the coaching staff, right? Enter Jeff Grimes in replace for Andy Kotelnicki. Now, Andy Kotelnicki, I think a lot of people kind of panicked a little bit, like, oh no, like the secret sauce is gone. He's gone. He's going to Penn State. He's taking it with him. Guys, I mean, Jeff Grimes is coming in here, but Leipold has made it very clear that he is not changing this offense at all. And part of the stipulation of hiring Grimes was Grimes is just going to be basically calling plays, I believe. Or maybe it's just he used the word infusing Grimes' offense into his offense. So that only tells me that there can be more wrinkles added to an already very wrinkly, I'm gonna call it a wrinkly offense, because it is very unique in the way it's run and it's had success. It's had success. And
It,
this offense has a lot of talent. Just like we knew last year, they had a lot of returning production on offense. This year, they have um, quite a bit of returning production as well. And that's headlined by 2023 Big 12 preseason player of the year, Jalen Daniels.
yeah, man. First of all, I mean, credit to Jason Bean. I got to give a shout out to Jason Bean, who I believe first overall pick for the XFL draft. Congrats to him. But Daniels is a guy that I think we were all robbed of a season because when he is healthy, he is so explosive, so dynamic. And unfortunately, he had that back injury that limited him last year. And there's a reason why he was preseason Big 12 Player of the Year is because of how good he is, the difference maker he can be. And maybe the best quarterback in the Big 12 when he's healthy, right? Maybe not pro potential wise, but in terms of dynamicness, impact on the game, success rate of your offense, and reliant upon that quarterback, it's tough. And if you look in that quarterback room, right? Last year you had Bean, you convinced him to come back from a year or for another year, right? As a veteran himself, and obviously paid off for him. But now you don't have that safety blanket. You have Cole Ballard, who got some experience last year, but is he a guy you feel good to, win you a game or two here and there if Daniels goes down or even extended period of time? I don't quite know. I do think there's a significant drop off this year compared to what there was last year.
Yeah, let me give you another name as well that is very, like, it ends up kind of hurting a ton, is a guy named Ethan Vasco, who transferred over to Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Ethan Vasco was on that roster, and he's doing well over at Coastal. He's looking to start over there for them, and he played well in his time there. And he is dynamic and explosive, and a good athlete there. I think he would have been a really good backup for Jalen Daniels. We'll see. We'll see. The status of Jalen Daniels as we head into the season. I'm I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, but I'm also not there, and I'm also not a medical professional, and I don't know these things, right? But well, I guess I'm optimistic. So I am operating under the assumption that Jalen Daniels is going to play quarterback for Kansas this season, which is
Yeah,
exciting.
that's exactly how I'm going to do this too. So you're going to hear us talk at least today. And we're expecting a full 13 games. We can't predict injuries. It sounds like from Big 12 Media Days, Leipold did say that he's doing everything they're asking him to do. He's progressing well. I know it's a back issue, so it could flare up, whenever, I guess, randomly, obviously. And we'll see when the bullets start flying come fall camp. Obviously, I don't think he'll be going much contact during then, but obviously, what's August 31st, right? You got a game to play, and obviously they're not gonna hold back. You do ease into it, right? I think Linden would, right? But then you go right to Champaign and at Illinois looking for a revenge game this year for them. So I don't know.
Illinois' revenge game.
I'm sorry, Illinois. Thank you.
Illinois is getting their revenge on Kansas. That's what.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Yeah, that running back room looks nice too. I mean, it's the same ones last year. Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw are the nice 1-2 there. Harry Stewart is a sneaky true freshman that I'm hearing beat writers kind of dominate. He's kind of dominating the spring reports and those headlines there. So I'm excited. I'm sure he'll get some touches too in this offense. I mean, if you get kind of another spare, I mean, we talk about a pair and spare, I mean, that's sounds nice that they got a guy like Harry Stewart there to kind of spell those two guys who are going to be touching the football a lot this season.
Yeah, and I think if you can run the ball really, really well, I think not only does that slow down the pass rush and maybe protect a couple hits a game for Jalen Daniels, but also you take the load off of him, what you expect him. Maybe Daniels carrying the football. But if you're Harry Stewart and you come and you give a boost to that room and you give that staff the confidence to give you a couple more touches, every week, whatever it may be, you're taking those touches away from Jalen Daniels that doesn't need to touch the ball, and you give it to Harry Stewart. And he's a guy, like you said, beat writers seem to be really high on him as well as its staff. And he just showed up physically ready to play, which doesn't happen all the time, right? Especially as an early enrollee true freshman. And that's pretty exciting there for Kansas, who, by the way, has upped their recruiting, in my opinion, right? Which is
Yeah.
fantastic. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. And this wide receiver group, it's running back, basically. I mean, look, you lose Mason Fairchild in the tight end room, right? But I mean, Lawrence Arnold, Luke Grimm, Quinn Skinner, all at over 500 yards last year. And they're all sitting about 2.5 yards per route run. So they're all productive. They all get open. They're all athletes. They're all good. And I don't expect their production to drop at all. And of course, you didn't have the exact same quarterback production that you would have last year with Jalen Daniels. So who knows what those numbers would have looked like for those guys? They both hovered around 50. They all three of them hovered around 50 targets. Like it's kind of a pick your poison. I think Lawrence Arnold is the best. He's one of the better receivers that Kansas has had in these last couple of years. So I think he will definitely headline this group for sure. But it's I like this wide receiver room a lot.
Yeah, well, first of all, you mentioned those top three guys returning: Arnold, Grimm, and Skinner. A couple different body types, which is really nice, and they're just so consistent. And like you said, the way they spread the ball around and the consistency that each one of them plays with gives you the option to do that right down in and down out with what they can do with their significant route tree that those each player can do right. But also, Trevor Wilson comes back. He's been a guy that's been with Leipold back since Buffalo. And he's not obviously, an elite player himself, but he's a really, really nice fourth piece for you to spell those three guys returning. And then Doug Emilian, right? He's a guy, former Minnesota guy. Love him in the run game, which is going to help with the outside zone that Kansas likes to run. And then Keaton Kubeka, right? Redshirt freshman, right? Was solid before he got redshirted just a year ago. And obviously, we talk about the depth there with the running back room, and it seems to be there with a couple young guys as well as experienced veterans returning in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, and in terms of the tight ends, right? You lose Mason Fairchild, but I mean, Jared Casey's got experience. He's played over 900 snaps. I think the tight end room is going to be determined whether or not Trevor Cardell can stay healthy.
Yeah.
Kansas fans, I know that y'all are super high on him. I am as well. Look, if he could just stay healthy, man, and make that impact in that receiving game, like I know that he can, I think that can definitely add a huge dynamic, one that they had um with Mason Fairchild last year. And Mason Fairchild had 450 yards receiving as a tight end, which is pretty stellar if you ask me. So if you can get some of that kind of production out of Cardell, whoo, I mean, this is a team full of weapons, right? Weapons on offense. Now, I do want to look at that offensive line. You lose a couple guys. Armaj Reed Adams, of course, is a guy that you are not going to have for next year, and a guy that has a chance to start, by the way, in the SEC over there, which is kind of crazy. But you add a couple guys, and you also get a couple guys back, right? You add Shane Bumgardner, um, coming from the what was that? Where did he come from? the Division 2
D
level,
Tiffin
Tiffin
University.
University. Um, he's a guy that could definitely start there. Like Bryce Foster's coming over there from Texas A&M. I don't know that Bryce Foster's going to start there. That is a very good talent to get in there. He was a highly rated recruit, 4-star guy.
Out of
From
experience.
yeah, from the uh, Houston area. He can be very good. Um, we'll see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on over there with him, but he definitely has a chance to start. If not, I mean, he could even play guard. But I know Daryl Simmons is a guy, uh, transfer from Iowa State, who they're looking at as well. Michael Ford is back, right? I see him as a pretty decent player as well. Uh, Bryce Cabledew, I hope that's how you say his name. He's also back to play tackle for them as well. Uh, so we'll see how this offensive line looks. But look, as we've seen in the past, they don't need to have an elite offensive line to be effective in what they do, which is very unique in college football. Like that's how good Lance Leipold is at his job. That's how good he is.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're moving a little bit more towards that wide zone, or at least more in their offense. And I think that helps if you've got a guy like Jared Casey who can block on the edge there, and if Cardell stays healthy, right? But he also, you're not you're moving guys instead of getting them right pushed back into you. But also it sounds like the screen game too, which another way to adapt or hide a bad offensive line is with screens, right? Because the defense is pinning their ears back, trying to get the pass rusher or the quarterback, and they can just kind of let them go by and then throw it over top or around them. But I do like Logan Brown, right? He's a former 5-star left tackle, transferred in from Wisconsin, I think 2 cycles ago, or I guess back in 2023 cycle. It sounds like he's back from injury and he's really, really putting it together. And he would be a guy that would be a big time boost for that room. Yeah, you got to replace obviously Dominic Puny, who is a pretty damn good player for you. And I think the athleticism that he has and the size and the obviously recruiting pedigree, but it sounds like if he put it all together, would be really nice protecting the blind side of Jalen Daniels, which I guess I keep going back to it, but is really, really important this year. And I know Matthew said, how much Leipold and what they've done there, Golden Hickey and staff has been able to adapt without an elite offensive line. I'm actually a little bit higher on this O line than I think I thought I was going to be, just because I think they've got finally you have a bunch of upperclassmen there, right? And even in some of your 2Ds, right? I think you're 7, 8 guys where you feel pretty good if you have to come in and pinch. And I think I like the competition you're bringing at, like with center, right? You're bringing in, like you said, Bumgarner from D2, Tiffin University, Bryce Foster got with a lot of SEC starts and their recruiting pedigree as well. And that's to me, it's a great recipe, right? To weed out or to improve your O line and find the best combination come fall.
I want to look at the defensive side of the ball. Um, it's a very interesting position for them, right? They lose Austin Booker, who was phenomenal for that defense, right? Transfer from Minnesota. I know you'll be able to speak on him a lot. Um, but like that edge group still could look good. It's going to be highlighted by, um, is that 2 true freshmen? Are they both Warner and Brinkley? Are they both edges?
Yes, they are.
So, and look, they were kind of the highlights of that recruiting class. That was top 45 in the country, by the way. Can't believe I said that. Kansas had a top 45 recruiting class. That is awesome. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll see what some of these other guys can do as well. Dean Miller, the JUCO transfer by Job, has a chance to step up this year for sure. Um, the depth here, it's kind of nice. I don't know if you have a ton of production to go off or past production to go off of, but I think I like the names here. You know what I'm saying?
Here's what I like is not so you got Jerome Robinson coming back and he's got some good experience. He had 4 sacks last year to go to opposite Austin Booker. Like you said, Austin Booker's a stud. He's going to be playing for the Bears this year. I cannot wait to watch him. He was incredible in his 1 year at Kansas. But I like the fact that you bring back some steady guys like Jerome Robinson, and then even Dylan Wudke, right? Older guy from Youngstown State. But then you get into your high upside, physical tools guys that can really become elite pass rushers in this league. Is it going to happen in year one? I don't know, but I love the idea of the combination, right, of finding these guys and maybe seeing what they're best at, seeing how they can you kind of gel together to become this really good defensive line group. And you're talking about Dean Miller, JUCO kid, super unproven as well, but he finally put on the weight that he needed to. I mean, I love the By Job, DJ Warner, Dacus Brinkley, right? Those guys. I mean, holy cow. I know they're raw. I know they probably have to put on a little bit more weight as well. But in terms of just twitch, athleticism, power, explosiveness, really, from that power, uh, Tim, it just bodes super well. And those are bodies you just don't see at Kansas on the defensive line. And to me, that's just really exciting. That's really exciting. It's kind of weird, but I almost think that between those four guys that I said that are unproven, I think you're going to be able to find, maybe 10 snaps a game for each of those guys, 15 snaps a game that can give you really, really good production at times.
Um, at the linebacker spot, looks pretty similar to last year. You lose Rich Miller. I don't know how good Rich Miller was, to be honest. Maybe Kansas fans, y'all might be able to speak on that better than me, but it feels like you might be getting an upgrade here. Like, is Cornell Wheeler gonna be? Is he gonna be that every down linebacker? I think he will be, and I think he could be better.
I think it's finally his turn to step up as redshirt senior, the athlete, the former recruiter. He's coming in from Michigan a couple years ago. Um, I think, like you said, obviously the experience with Rich Miller hurts, but I think Cornell Wheeler, it could be a net plus, and that's net positive for Kansas in the linebacker room.
Yeah, well, you're still getting experience back with JB Brown. I mean, JB Brown played almost 600 snaps last year, right? He graded out pretty well. I'm looking here on PFF, but Cornell Wheeler, I thought he was really good in this time. He only played around 200 snaps last year, but if he's really good, again, I don't know about that interior defensive line, but if they could find a way to stop the run a little bit, like they were unable to do last year, of course, letting up 168 yards per game on 4.5 yards per carry. If they can figure out a way to kind of handle that, right? Because the secondary's got some good players, they got some good players in that Kansas secondary. Um, a unit that in the past, I've said has benefited off of takeaways, but I do think that I, I think I may have been underselling that Kansas secondary, right? So if that linebacking core finds a way to step up and seriously make some plays in the run game, I think this Kansas defense has a chance to improve a little bit. This was already, a top 65 defense in the country, right? So top half defense in the country, which is incredible for Kansas, by the way. Let's uh let's not brush over that, right? Like that's like, oh, they're just a top half. Yeah, most of these teams in the Big 12 are top half defenses, but Kansas has not seen a top half defense in a while. So that's a big deal. And if they can improve on that, that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll see. I love that secondary. I think it's a really, really good unit. Obviously, you lose a guy like Kenny Logan, who was a really good player for you. Played over 700 snaps. He did a lot of things for you in the box, free high safety, covering slot receivers. He was pretty damn good for you. But I guess returning, you've got OJ Burrows, right? Pretty damn good as well. Marvin Grant is a pretty good athlete who's finally seems like it's his turn to move into that starting safety role. He played almost 500 snaps last year and looked good in them. And then obviously you've got Kobe Bryant and Melo Dotson. Kobe Bryant's two-time All Big 12 player. He's a shutdown corner. You really like him and Melo Dotson, his running mate. That's pretty damn good because you're not going to throw to Brian and you're going to have to throw to Dotson, and he's going to make you pay. Like you said, he had a couple big time plays for Kansas last year.
Yeah, I really like this secondary for every reason that you just said. So, um, yeah, Melo Dotson's good. Kobe Bryant is fantastic. I mean, he has been for the last several years. Yeah, I mean, we'll see about the depth of the secondary. Eh, If some guys get hurt, I don't really know what they're gonna do, particularly at that safety position. Maybe the die Jalen die and Devin die can have something to say about that, but I don't know. I can't say really much other than this secondary is gonna be good. Um, but I don't think that's the keystone of this defense. The keystone is going to be is that front seven going to be improved, and that's going to be the big difference. Looking at their schedule, um, again they play all of their conference games at Arrowhead Stadium, and then they play at Children's Mercy for two of the out of conference games. So for UNLV, and Lindenwood, they're going to play at Children's Mercy, which is in Missouri, I believe. I believe it's also in Kansas City. I don't know. I think it holds about 20,000. I was looking at it earlier, but so they get Lindenwood at home. They go to Illinois then. They get UNLV at home, at West Virginia, TCU at home, at Arizona State. They get a bye. Then they get Houston at Arrowhead, at Kansas State, bye, Iowa State, at home, aka Arrowhead, right? I'm just gonna say at home. That just means Arrowhead. At BYU, home against Colorado, at Baylor. Their win total's at 8 because I believe the schedule is insanely manageable. It's pretty terrible timing that they don't get to play a lot of those home games uh, in Lawrence because they draw Houston, Baylor, Colorado, BYU, and Arizona State. That that is a great draw in conference. That's already 5. I'm not going to say wins, but like 5 insanely winnable games. When you're looking at the spectrum of winnable games and losable games, that is on the far weighted spectrum of the winnable games. And then also Lindenwood. I don't expect Illinois to be all that good. Uh, and then UNLV, who without Jaden Miava, I mean, yeah, sure you might like Matthew Sloka or whatever his name is. I always forget his name, but you always know from Holy Cross. Um, I mean, that's 8 games right there. You're already getting to 8. If you win all of those games, then you just have TCU, West Virginia, Kansas State, and Iowa State left. And um, 2 of those games you get at Arrowhead, and 2 of those games you get on the road. So it's juice to the over, even with the schedule dynamic and having renovations to their stadium. Where are you thinking that Kansas lands on the spectrum?
Really, really good. I mean, to be honest, I know we have to make our prediction here over and under 8. And I guess for argument's sake, I'll take 8. I don't know if I would like to bet it just because of that uncertainty of your quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Cole Ballard, a guy that can give you, wins as in extended playing time if he has to. So I guess we'll see about that. I think the reality is, and I guess we'll talk about it once we get closer to our predictions and previews of our Big 12 and conferences. I do think there's some sneaky action that you get of Kansas in terms of a little bit more macro, in terms of not just their over on win total, but in the Big 12 as a whole. And Kansas is someone I'm really, really high on. If you tell me that Jalen Daniels plays all 12 games, I I think it's you're thinking about potentially double digit to close to 11 wins. That's how high I am on this team and this roster.
Yeah, if you tell me that he plays all 12 games, I will easily take the over. If you tell me he does not, I am pounding the under. It's going to depend on his health, right? So I'll ride the over with you. I think 8-4, of course, is the most likely outcome here. But I do think somehow Kansas is more likely to go 9-3 than 7-5. Can't believe can't believe we're saying that these days. That is awesome. Way to go, Lance Leipold. The expectations for that program have risen significantly under him, and that is a good thing.
Can I say
So,
something real quick? I wonder how they feel about, the quarterback position in terms of the health of Daniels, because, obviously it's not easy to go and get a backup quarterback, but if they thought that was an actual pressing concern, a pressing need, they could have gone and done so in the portal, and they just didn't. and I don't know what that was all about. Is it, do they feel really good about Daniels? Do they love Cole Ballard? Is Isaiah Marshall, that freshman that they brought in, is he a guy that they didn't, want to not spook, but just they were kind of going all in on him? I don't know. But I think to me, that's something I was definitely kind of caught my eyes. I was waiting for them, one of those dominoes to fall. Even a guy like Colin
Timmy Mc
Schlee.
Timmy
I mean,
McLean.
Tim McClain ended up at Arkansas State, and we love the Red Wolves there, right? But Tim McLean, Colin Schlee ended up at Virginia Tech, and all these other things. I don't know. I thought there were backup quarterbacks to be had in the portal for a program like Kansas that are a little bit more proven and experienced than Cole Ballard, but not to poop on the guy at all. I think obviously that staff trusts him. He was awesome in the
I
time that
think
he
Logan Fife would have been a good option.
yeah. He
That's the
ended up at
thing.
Montana, but because he wanted to start. So I guess that maybe it wouldn't have been a great play for Kansas. But regardless, that's why I wonder. Well, maybe they do feel pretty darn good about Daniels, and maybe they're just kind of keeping under wraps to hinder expectations to, you know, keep teams not guessing, but I guess not quite maybe overlooking Kansas, if that makes sense.